All right, so with our handsome Mr. Bodie, I wanted to see if we could work a little bit with some weights. First, we'll warm up a little bit with some loose leash walking with maybe a couple fronts. Ready? Front. Get him in the groove. Nice, good job. Such a hungry hippo. I know he also just grabbed a drink of water, so he's like soaked. Ready? So we'll bring him back to the side. So it can be nice to also sometimes rotate while working with some loose leash walking through your front behavior, getting your puppy from your side position back into the front of your body. And if they're not as fluid with these fronts, you can again not even worry about the sitting position, but help them get in the habit of like moving into your space, into the front of your legs as being valuable. So then from there, you could go back into your side or finish position, which would be then by your leg. He dropped it. So that way you can start to practice that being by the leg also is beneficial to reboot that loose leash walking. Two, if your puppy is a bit bigger, like lengthwise or size-wise, and it's not as easy for them to go back into the side position, you can actually go ahead and take a step back while doing it. So I'll show that in a moment. So right here, we're just going to go into our front. He says, oh, so exhausting. So I'm going to do it on this side so you can see him better. So let's say, for example, to bring him back to my side position, if I don't take a step back, I may not have as much room to set him up by the side of my body. So you'll see that with the stepping back, he was able to have a bigger loop to do that change in direction and be able to head back towards the leg. Yes, very nice. Ready? So we can go into a front. Oh my goodness, chewing. Oh my goodness, so much excitement. So if let's say you get a little bit of wiggly worms, don't worry. So the moment he has all four on the floor, or he can offer another better skill, remember that sometimes jumping is just your puppy's way of saying I'm either a little confused, I'm feeling really excited, I could be a little stressed. So when your puppy does do some jumping, I do not like to scold puppies for making mistakes, or even adult dogs. Because I want a dog that feels safe to offer information without worry of being reprimanded. So I would much rather take a puppy that is super eager to come into my space and want to engage with me than a puppy that's hesitant and scared and a little standoffish to be, again, flustered that they might make the wrong move and get into trouble. So remember that scolding also doesn't teach your puppy what you'd prefer. It just scares them in the moment. So it's not going to teach them that jumping is, let's say, a bad thing. They're going to start to think that maybe when they come near you, sometimes you become aggressive. So your puppy will be a bit confused. So I'd recommend, if you don't like what they're doing, which again, I think you guys have been doing a really great job with Mr. B, and so are the rest of the beauties in the class. But I would always recommend, if you don't like what your pup is offering or giving you for behavior skills, think, what could I have the puppy do instead? So think of something you'd rather replace the behavior with, something that you find might be more beneficial. But remember that sometimes the only way your puppy can say they're not understanding something or feeling overwhelmed is by being, like, for example, disobedient, or by doing the things that come natural to a dog when they're overwhelmed or stressed. Bodie, here. He says, lady, this is the only speed I have right now. Yes, what a good boy. So when you're practicing with your babes, remember, correction does not create connection. So it tends to create more confusion and lack of trust. So right here, I'm going to tell him to wait, and we're going to do a little bit with our waiting position. See if he can hold back for a few moments at a time, and I'm going to work that recall from his wait. So Bodie here. Yes, what a smart man. So if your babe is, again, really struggling with a certain skill, I would always gauge, is the environment maybe too stimulating? He says, I'm excited, lady. Is the environment too stimulating? Wait. Could there be too much stuff going on that could be stressful? Does the puppy really understand what we're asking? So sometimes your puppy, ready, Bodie here, might understand how to work a skill in a certain bubble, or, for example, in a certain environment, or with certain criteria. When one of those things maybe changes, they may think that it's not the same setup. So right here, if he's a little eager beaver, I'm going to send him away with a couple little find its just to create some movement for him. So I am not reinforcing the jump. If, for example, I was feeding him while he was popping up on top of me and I was like, oh, what a good boy jumping, then I would be reinforcing the jump. But if instead I'm redirecting him from jumping into find its, I'm now feeding him for all on the floor. I'm feeding him for moving away and disengaging and going and doing some searching of food. And then that way I'm also taking some of this energy, be it from excitement or frustration, and redirecting it. So as opposed to being like, no, off, down, and getting really agitated, which I find normally the only time your puppy then starts to listen is when you become even more dramatic, but then they also become a little bit overwhelmed. So right here, I'm going to try again with a little sit. I'm going to tell him to wait, and we'll see if we can rock a little bit with this waiting position for a moment. He's doing a real nice job. Bodie, here. Nice, good job. So sometimes if he tends to pass by me, like when he comes when called, you can also do a little bit of a jackpot moment where you feed one snack after the other as he comes into your space and he's still near you. For some puppies, it's just very exciting to start romping, and then they might romp to you, but then keep going. So it can be nice to sometimes slow the behaviors down. So we might get a little sit. I know it's all very exciting. We're going to tell him to wait. But if, again, he was really struggling with this, I would make it a little bit easier. So like right now, he's actually been doing quite well. So sometimes I might add a little bit more difficulty, like duration and some movement. I might even add a little bit more distance and see how he feels. He's like, I'm going to relax then. And perfectly fine. If he wants to chill and go into a down position, everybody's shutting, even me, then that is perfectly okay. So if you were, again, worried that you really would like him to hold one position versus the other, if you find downs are easier for him, you may want to just start there versus asking for the sit and having it always turn into a down the road. But really whatever makes sense for you guys. Oh, so close. He was on to me. Bodie, here. Yes. Good job. Where are you going? Nice. Where's my boy? So good. So too, I know we've mentioned, he's like, no, I like your stink. It's not a toy. He's like, it could have been. I know I replaced my other stinky rag because I was going to wash it and then I forgot before coming. So I had to use a different little hand cloth towel thing. So it's a little bit bigger than I normally use. So sometimes it looks more like a flashy little toy. Bodie, here. Yes, good job. What a smart man. So maybe we'll try another one. He's like, I like the Find-Its are his favorites. Ready, sit. I know it's so hard. We'll rock it down. Gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and maybe I'm going to feed him for that beautiful little down because he said it was very challenging. And I'm going to tell him to wait. And we're going to try now for a down wait position for a moment. Oh, he says, hold up, distractions. So if we lose him, I'm going to try to bring him roughly where we were originally, which is somewhere over here. We're going to regain. He's like, oh, so tired. Down. Nice. So this time I'm going to tell him to wait, but I'm not going to give him a little snacker for starting, because otherwise sometimes what can happen by mistake is he might start to think that if I get up, go back, get up, go back, every time I reset him, I gave him a snack. He might start to think the whole behavior is getting up and sitting down or getting up and lying down. So I want him to wait there for just a few seconds while chilling, and then I'm going to call him and feed him for the release. So many funny noises. Bodie, here. Yes, smart boy. You guys could also get in the rhythm of sometimes practicing gotcha, which I know I have mentioned for some of the babes in other videos. He says, I'm very excited today. He's feeling very good, which I'm glad to feel that he's, again, using himself fully, which is quite nice. But if, let's say, for example, when you go to reach for your puppy or you go to grab for equipment, remember that at times the reach can seem a bit spooky or the beginning of play or wrestles. So I would highly recommend, like, if your puppy tends to see you reaching for them and they want to take off, or reaching and they get overwhelmed, don't wait for the moment you actually have to grab your puppy in a safety situation to grab for them. There are some puppies too that when you grab for gear, they feel really overwhelmed. And that's where some people can become injured if your pup is flustered and they're not used to you grabbing for gear as being a comfortable or a safe thing to do, but more a scary or threatening moment. Some people will sometimes grab a dog by the collar or whatever and try to pull them off of something like a couch or away from a resource. And in that situation, for some dogs, it can be very triggering. So I would highly recommend to practice grabbing for gear and making that itself neutral, safe, and a bringer of good. So if your pup has never done the gotcha, you'd want to start off by making the reach where you don't even make contact be non-scary and positive. So again, let's say, for example, we have Mr. Handsome. I know, so exciting. So let's say, for example, I might go and I'm going to reach, and even if he does like a little booping, no big deal. I want to sort of reach for gear, and then I'm going to feed. So that was delicious. So again, I'm going to reach, and then I'm going to feed. So he doesn't care, but there's going to be moments where at times your puppies, and that was me blabbing and getting distracted. So there could be times where your babe could be flustered by someone reaching for them. Remember though, so this will vary depending on if the puppy knows you or doesn't. So just like with us, we feel comfortable having a family member or spouse hug us. We would not feel comfortable with some random stranger on the subway coming to, oh my gosh, chew them, with a random stranger coming over to hug you. So remember that for the social spectrum, there could be moments where it seems very normal for us to do something, but maybe not someone brand new. So when practicing with this reaching and grabbing, I think I also worked on this with Bernie, who was having some trouble with like grooming tools. So nothing bad, but like trying to build up better associations. So like the brush would move and he'd be fed, and the brush would move and not even touching him. So you can start to build up that the engagement is not so shabby. So I would also, if you guys haven't taken a peek-see, is there are the cooperative care videos. There's also cooperative care with Deb Jones. She has a Facebook group that is closed, but it's very, very nice. Also, she's got a book, ebook as well. So that way you can kind of start to look over ways to help your puppy with cooperative care when it comes to grooming, vet visits, handling, all these different sort of very important situations. Because if the one time your puppy gets restrained is when things hurt or when they get bombarded, then being restrained is the bringer of bad. So just coughed up another snack. Bodie, here. He said, like, hold up, lady, there's a really good distraction over here. So many toys. I have all the toys out over to the side. Yeah, what a good boy. Those scary noises in the building sometimes. Yes. But there's a pile of toys because when they're out playing, they sometimes do some play and some play with toys at the same time together. Nice job. But we'll maybe call it a little bit of a breather for Mr. B. He's doing a really nice job. I know he's registered for the next 2, and then we will be taking a little summer break, and then starting up again in the fall. So come September. But nice job. So we'll give Mr. B a little find it and then give him a little break. Ready? So where'd they go? But very impressive work for Mr. B today.